The email pinged at 2 a.m. Subject line cooking samples required. Sarah stared at her phone, heart sinking, as her mother-in-law's ultimatum glowed in the dark send proof of her culinary worth, or don't bother showing up to the family reunion. Sarah's hands trembled as she scrolled through the message. Margaret, her mother-in-law, had always been a gatekeeper of tradition, her kitchen a fortress of perfection where recipes were sacred and deviations were sins. But this was a new low, a demand for samples, photos, recipes, even a taste test via overnight mail before Sarah could be deemed worthy to join the annual family gathering. The same gathering where Sarah's husband, Tom, would face his mother's wrath if she didn't comply. Sarah wasn't a chef. She was a graphic designer, a dreamer who loved sketching wildflowers and binge-watching sci-fi shows with Tom. Cooking was her quiet rebellion, a way to carve out her identity in a marriage shadowed by Margaret's looming presence. Her lasagna wasn't gourmet, but it was hers layered with love, a pinch of chaos, and a lot of mozzarella. Now, Margaret wanted to judge it like a reality show contestant. The next morning, Sarah sat at her kitchen table, staring at a blank sketch pad. She'd always imagined the family reunion as a chance to belong, to be more than the outsider Margaret whispered about at last year's event. But this demand felt like a test she was destined to fail. Tom shuffled in, coffee mug in hand, his face a mix of guilt and exhaustion. "She's just particular," he said, avoiding her eyes. "Maybe send her the chili recipe. She liked it last time." Sarah's jaw tightened. She said it was too spicy and lacked depth. She didn't even eat it. Tom sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know, but it's one weekend. Can we just get through it?" The words stung. Sarah wanted to scream that this wasn't about chili or lasagna. It was about Margaret's need to control, to remind Sarah she'd never be good enough for her son, but she swallowed the hurt, nodding. "Fine, I'll cook something." That afternoon, Sarah dove into the challenge. Not because she wanted to win Margaret over, but because she refused to let her dictate the terms of her worth. She chose a dish that screamed defiance, a vibrant Thai green curry, fragrant with lemongrass and coconut milk, a far cry from Margaret's meat and potatoes legacy. She spent hours chopping, simmering, tasting, her kitchen alive with the hum of creation. She snapped photos, wrote a detailed recipe, and even packaged a small sample in a cooler, overnighting it to Margaret's pristine suburban home. The waiting was torture. Sarah checked her phone obsessively, imagining Margaret's pursed lips as she sniffed the curry, her verdict already written in her scowl. 2 days later, the response came. "Interesting, but not suitable. Lacks tradition. You may attend, but don't expect to cook." Sarah's heart plummeted. Not suitable, she'd poured her soul into that dish. She wanted to call Margaret, to demand an explanation. But Tom's voice echoed in her mind. Just get through it. So she packed her bags, her sketch pad, and her pride, and drove with Tom to the reunion in upstate New York. The family estate was a picture of old money white clapboard house, sprawling lawn, and a dining room that smelled of rosemary and judgment. Margaret greeted them at the door, her smile as sharp as a knife. "Sarah, dear," she said, her tone dripping with false warmth. "I'm glad you made it. The kitchen's handled." The words landed like a slap. Sarah forced a smile, her fingers itching to sketch the scene, Margaret as a dragon, guarding her hoard of casseroles. The reunion was a blur of polite small talk and sidelong glances from Tom's aunts and cousins, who'd clearly heard about the curry incident. Sarah felt like an exhibit in a museum, observed but not understood. Dinner was the main event, a spread of Margaret's classics: roast beef, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole. Sarah sat quietly, pushing food around her plate, her mind replaying the email. Not suitable. The phrase burned. She glanced at Tom, hoping for a spark of solidarity. But he was deep in conversation with his uncle about football. Then, a cousin's voice broke through. "Hey, Sarah, I heard you made some killer curry. Why isn't it here?" The table went silent. Margaret's fork froze midair. Sarah's pulse raced. She could lie, play it safe, or she could speak. For once, she chose herself. I sent it to Margaret, Sarah said, her voice steady. She didn't think it fit the menu. A murmur rippled through the room. Margaret's face reddened, her smile tightening. It was unconventional, she said. Her words clipped. We stick to family recipes here. Family recipes. Sarah's voice rose, surprising even herself. You mean your recipes? The ones you've decided are the only ones that matter. The air thickened. Tom's eyes widened, but Sarah pressed on. I spent hours on that curry. It wasn't just food, it was me, my story, my way of showing I care. And you dismissed it without a taste. Margaret's lips parted, but no words came. For the first time, she looked unsteady. Her authority cracked. A cousin piped up. I'd love to try it. Sarah, sounds amazing. Another nodded, then another. The table buzzed with quiet support, a shift Margaret couldn't ignore. The rest of the evening was awkward. But something had changed. Sarah felt lighter. Her voice found later, as she and Tom packed to leave. He squeezed her hand. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have backed you up. Sarah nodded, her heart softening. Next time, you will. Back home. Sarah didn't wait for Margaret's approval. She started hosting her own dinners, inviting friends, neighbors, even Tom's cousins. Her table overflowed with curry, lasagna, tacos, dishes that told stories, not followed rules. Word spread, and soon her gatherings were the talk of the town, a quiet rebellion against tradition's grip. Margaret never came, but Sarah didn't need her to. She'd found her place, her flavor, her family. What do you think? Did Sarah do the right thing by standing up to Margaret? Or should she have played it safe to keep the peace? Share your thoughts on where justice lies in this clash of tradition and individuality.